All the time.
It's all good. All good. All good. Okay, so it is 3:02. 30, what time is it? 3:04. We're calling this meeting to order of the Ava Community Energy Executive Committee. Today is Wednesday, March 4th, 2026. We're in person at the Altamira, at the Altamont Conference Room here at 1999 Harrison Street, Suite 2300 in Oakland. We're also available at other locations as listed in the agenda. At this point in time, would you please take roll?
Thank you.
Clerk.
Alameda County,
Present.
Stockton,
Present.
Pleasanton,
Present.
Piedmont, San Joaquin County, Hayward,
Present.
San Leandro.
Present.
We have a quorum.
At this point in time, we will move to item 2, which is public comment for items that are not on our agenda, but are within the subject matter purview of this committee. Members who wish to address us can do so and are given 3 minutes to speak, and may do so here in person or at our remote locations. Do we have anybody who has submitted a slip?
We have not received any slips, and there are no hands raised at this time.
So we will close public comment on non-agenda items, and we will move to the item number 3 on our agenda. We'll just begin with, is there a motion to approve the minutes from January 14th, 2026?
26.
I'm assuming.
So moved, Chair.
Okay, so I've got a motion from member Marquez and
Second.
a second from member Balch. At this point in time, we'll take public do we need public comment on this?
Yes, there is no public comment at
Okay,
this
so we'll close public comment on this. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Can we do it by unanimous consent, or do all of these require?
I think all of our votes are by roll call.
Okay, please proceed. Thank you.
Alameda County,
Aye.
Stockton,
Yes.
Pleasanton,
Aye.
Piedmont, San Joaquin County, Hayward. Hayward?
She was
Come back to Hayward. San Leandro.
Yes.
The minutes are approved, but I would still, if when Hayward
I think
returns.
it's approved, so let's move on. Item number 4, we've got question about, or we have an item on conference sponsorship policy for board members. Informational item, and we've got John Perkins here to walk us through this.
Hi, everyone. This is a very simple and straightforward item, and it's directly related to requests that have come from board members in the past regarding whether or not conferences can be reimbursed. What we are proposing and are seeking your input, if you have any, is an official policy in order to be compliant with California law to permit directors to be reimbursed for dedicated, or rather for designated conferences. In this case, particularly CalCCA and the CAISO Stakeholder Symposium. And so this would allow for reimbursement for the cost of the conference itself, reasonable travel, lodging, accommodation, etc. It's really quite cut and dry, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
So prior to taking questions, let's go ahead and do public comment on this item so we can do questions and discussions after. Do we have any public comment on this item?
Yes, Jim Lutz, recognized for 3 minutes.
You need a microphone?
No.
Oh, okay.
Just let us confirm. You can hear him online, is that correct?
Thumbs up.
Perfect.
Okay. I'm Jim Lutz. I'm on the CAC, but I'm speaking for myself, although it's related to this. I would ask that you expand the same offer to CAC members. And I don't want to hold myself up as an example, but the CAC members are dedicated, knowledgeable, and you could use attendance conferences to enhance theirs and the board's knowledge of the challenges and opportunities that other CCAs are dealing with for the benefit of AVA. And this would just give COC members the same parity with the board members as at their official meetings. So that's just a request. And that's all.
Thank you for your comment. Any others?
There are no hands raised at this time.
Do we have any comment at the remote locations? Seeing none, so we'll close public comment on this item. And I welcome questions or just get into the discussion either way from board members, either in person or online. Okay, yes, please proceed.
Thank you, Chair. With respect to the eligible events for reimbursement, it indicates CalCCA Annual Conference, CAISO Stakeholder Symposium. I have not been able to attend any of these conferences, but do they have like a rate for like community member, or do you have to be associated with CCA? I'm just trying to have a better understanding of the registration structure.
Anyone in the public is able to register, so you don't need to be part of a particular organization per se. I'd have to confirm the exact details, but typically they have different registration fees and levels, and to some extent even certain options that you can choose from with different costs associated with it. I think that both tend to have sort of like public entity, nonprofit entity registration fees. That's the norm, but I'd have to confirm that. So
I think that's right too.
Okay, and then are these normally hosted in different parts of the state, or are they primarily in Sacramento?
yeah, so the CalCCA annual conference typically alternates between Southern California and Northern California.
Okay.
It is annual, typically in the spring timeframe, April or May. Generally speaking, the CAISO Stakeholder Symposium is typically every other year, and that is in Sacramento when
That
it is held.
Okay, got it. And so when we're talking about, I haven't had a chance to read this thoroughly. So is the reimbursement including travel or just registration?
It is covering all associated expenses with the conference itself, so registration, travel expenditures, to the extent a hotel is necessary. So it's intended to cover all incidental expenses
Okay.
that are in line with sort of reimbursements or government reimbursement funds.
Okay. And then does AVA have an internal policy for travel expenses? Like it has to be beyond 40, 50 mile radius from this location, not where someone resides, but from headquarters,
In order to get
the travel?
I would defer to John. I don't know if you know.
So if you're talking about for directors, no, and we are
Or
reasonably
for
flexible.
employees as well?
For employees, we're still pretty flexible.
Okay.
But because we rely on a reasonableness standard, if it's reasonable to incur travel expenses, it would be reasonable to reimburse.
Thank you.
Going to member Balch.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Quick question. Interestingly enough, this came up at U.S. Conference of Mayors for me, was the internet at the hotel room. Things like that is simple, right? Because it's not, is that a personal expense or is it not? You know, $8 or $9 or $12, I can't remember how much they charge per day. So I don't want to, I re-familiarized myself. It was a few days ago. I read the package. It's pretty light, don't get me wrong. Two things that I'll mention that I think should be considered or may want to be considered is one, a very explicit, there's already a time limit you got to submit within 60 days per this proposed policy, but frequency or, you know, number, these conferences only occur twice, but what if there was a sub working group, you know, so how many times could you do it? That was my kind of first question, if there was additional events added in the future or they held different events, right? And then the second is, how do you want to, you know, questionable on the internet of a hotel room, right? I only say that because recently mine just got kicked back and questioned for U.S. Conference of Mayors. So, thank you.
Our intention would be to cover something like Wi-Fi. Again,
Right.
we're using a reasonable standard, so the assumption is that Wi-Fi is being used for some agency purposes. So that's the intention. With that said, I think your question is a fair one. I don't know that it's so clear with how we've written this up, so perhaps adding a little bit of detail to ensure that those types of costs are included. certainly reasonable from our perspective. And at the same time, you know, ultimately, we really want to seek the board guidance on matters of this nature. If you want it a little bit wider in coverage or narrower in coverage, of course, you know, that's to be back to you.
Chair, if I may continue slightly then. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's why governments moved to per diem, right? Because they don't want to get into should you have the flan with your dinner or not, right? Kind of a question. So everyone just gets a per diem, and that's why we move on. I think that you've got to, you know, it's our first policy, so I don't want to be too granular at this point. I think, though, it probably will evolve. Things that I'm a little concerned with is, you know, what events, right? They've got to be fully within our purview or our scope. But this is the JPA, showing our customers why we're sending board members there, our you know, ratepayers. And I think you've done that with the two, right? So I think starting off, that's probably appropriate. My question becomes, like I said, if they have 4 conferences a year, are we going to allow that? Or are we going to try to, you know, only cover 1 a year, right? Only annually per board member, for example. You know what I'm trying to say without trying to get too granular here?
I do see what you're saying, and I appreciate it because since these particular conferences exist once per year, we were trying to be very clear, like it's these 2 items which are once a year, and that's the full scope. Now we hadn't really thought about, okay, what if they change and what if they expand to have multiple offerings? But we can be very clear that it's 2 items, each of which occur once per year, and that is the full scope of the
or so therefore you could attend 2 events a year for reimbursement or something like that, and
exactly.
Okay, so and maybe that's going to be Rev 2, right, in the future. I don't know if you're looking for revising this for the full board now, or you're going to take this forward, but I would suggest some level of element towards that personally. And then my second is maybe in the reasonable, you know, you're talking about the travel, lodging, and just say, you know, and a nominal amount associated with internet cost, not minibar, right? That's kind of where I'm trying to be very, the way mine got, you know, flagged, and I understand it, and we moved on, is they flagged it like it was just a minibar expense. It wasn't room and, you know, and meal, right?
Just
So.
a quick question for you, because I'm a little bit ambiguous on, are you specifically recommending, because then I'd like to build consensus on the committee if you are you specifically recommending that there be internet identified, a small per diem identified? I'm not quite clear on exactly what you are recommending.
You know, it was the first. Thank you, Chair. It was the first time that I've seen two things happen. The first time that I've ever had my internet flagged as a cost, and what I realized why it got flagged for Pleasanton was because Marriott. I hate to go into this in detail on a public meeting, and Howard was worried about me talking about why I was late, but it got flagged because the standard internet in the room is $8.99 a piece, and apparently I upgraded for faster internet, not realizing it, for $12.99 a day a piece. So I was like, I don't care. But that's what Pleasanton, you know, where I ran afoul on accident, right?
So I'm sorry, I don't want to delve into all the details. I really just want to know, are there some words that you would recommend that before this goes to the full board, and you can have some time to think about it. Don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm going to come back unless you've got immediate words. So I'm going to go to Member Fugazi next, and then go to Member Roche in that order. Okay, so let's go to Member Fugazi.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out that nowadays, if you are a member, and I joined literally when I was at the Marriott Marquis or whatever, I said, do I have a membership? If not, I will sign up right now or be and they said, you get complimentary internet if you are. And so I'm like, hey, okay. But the other thing we do is, well, at least here in Stockton, is we have $10 for incidentals. So that would cover, you know, internet or whatnot, $10 per day. In, you know, and then we have per diem for our meals. But I just wanted to throw that out there because I know Marriott, Hyatt, Hilton, Sheraton, I mean, all of those hotels, if you have one of their, you know, numbers, they often throw in internet for free.
I should have had Fugazi check me in instead of myself.
Okay, moving to Member Roche.
Hi, thanks. I do think it's too granular for us to be talking about the Wi-Fi cost in this kind of policy, because I think it does come under the purview of a reasonable travel expense. Like, especially these two conferences, I've gotten to go to one of them. It is internet heavy, right? You want to get back to the room and look at some of the documents and try to understand what you're doing. So it would come under, I believe it would come under a reasonable travel expense anyway. So I appreciate it, Member Balch, what you're saying, because, obviously you got dinged for it. But I think that as far as us having a policy, it would be fine sitting under reasonable travel expense, in my opinion. I wouldn't add granularity on this topic. But also I just wanted to add, I appreciate the two items that you're trying to list under this conference. I think these are really important things for members to be exposed to, because we all listen to a myriad of very, very technical information. And it's hard enough to, sort of absorb it, and try to learn by osmosis within the board and the staff that's giving us direction. To go to these conferences and try to understand in a more detailed level is really important for the board. So I'm totally on board with these two items. And I think, Member Bulch brought it up, perhaps we could have a line that says, or such future related conferences, maybe something like that, so that it doesn't have to be a decision later on if something is added that is really pertinent to what we do here. But otherwise, I think the general nature of what we're trying to do is fine by me. Thank you.
Chair, if I may.
Yes, please, Member
Yeah,
Balch.
in light of that comment and both those comments, and I think those are exactly right. I think internet's now just essential for us to travel and do work personally. So I would just suggest maybe there's a ad when it says reasonable cost of travel, lodging, internet, comma, and meals. Just be added in and moving on. Frankly, for that would be my suggestion there. And then
I'm going to ask you to pause there. I'm going to look for some thumbs up if from members online. Yes, no on that item.
Could I just ask, it says in here, available from the USGSA administration. That's where they're getting the quote reasonable definition from. So can someone answer, does that reasonable definition from the USGSA include what Member Balch just said?
We will look for it.
It's my understanding where we reference the USGSA, it's not about determining the expenses that should be approved or not. That's a discretionary decision, though we're certainly in line with it. It's more about the level. And so that website helps to identify reasonable levels. So that's what that's a reference to. Wouldn't necessarily define the scope.
Okay, then in that case, if we want to add the line that Member Balch just said, then I'm fine with that, if we need that within our policy. Yeah.
Okay, so it is my perception that there's a majority of this committee, at least 4, that would like to see that word inserted after the word lodging, I guess.
Yep.
You can put in the word internet. Okay, there was the next question. Meals are already in there, so I'm inclined not to say anything about per diem for meals. The last one that I've heard raised are something about future related conferences. I was involved in a discussion with Chair Anderson and Howard about how to think about this as a first pass policy. And I think the idea was, let's get our feet wet and let's see if there's material pushback on, well, why can't I go to the such and such conference, and address that on a go forward basis. There hasn't been a massive demand for getting people, coming with lots of requests to go to conferences. I think there was one request that came up that seemed marginally relevant, which then triggered, hey, but we don't really have a formal written policy. And so the way to try to create some standard was to come up with this policy. So I'm going to pause there and see if that gives people the comfort that they need to, subject to the edit, adopt this or move this forward to the full board, beginning with Member Balch, then going to Member Roche.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So prior historical, just for context, when Nick was here and we did have a few people asking to go to some conferences. Some members, I should say, directors. And the conferences were ancillarily involved with the JPA, I would say. So they were denied for reimbursement based on, unfortunately, a very loose policy. So I appreciate everything coming forward. I guess I'll say that, right? Very specific, the ones we're going to be allowing. And here are the two, right? So I can sit with this. I just want to kind of bring flavor that there was some challenges in the past.
Thank you. Member Roche.
Okay, yeah, knowing that history, that's fine, just keeping this too. I was just thinking if another conference, comes up that is related and Ava finds themselves part of that sort of new group of people that go to said conference, we might want to consider that. But if the problem in the past has been other ancillary kind of related conferences and we want to make it clear they're not included, then sure, let's go with the two for now and then we'll amend as we need to going forward.
Okay, looking for any other commentary at this point in time.
I'd
Yes,
like to
please.
wait. So I support the recommendation made by Member Bulge, but also would like to see how others feel about including the CAC. I do know there's been members that have been on that for a long time that are very committed and do bring unique expertise, information, and community knowledge. So I'd be open to considering that.
Okay. So I'd be curious to see from the folks online, beginning with Member Roche.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I appreciate Mr. Litz bringing that up, and I understand the consideration, and I guess I'm open to the discussion. I can, on one hand, as a body sort of making decisions for the bottom line of AVA, I can see why we might need that sort of expertise. But as the CAC is an advisory body to the board, I can understand why they would seek that same knowledge. So I don't know. I mean, if AVA is trying to, limit the scope of and the resources to this end, I don't really know how to think about it. Maybe perhaps it's a sort of annual sort of conference scholarship for one or two people on CAC, and that can sort of evolve, one or two people, the chair and maybe a vice chair or something like that. I don't see us opening up to the whole CAC. Again, maybe one or two conference scholarships a year. I would consider something like that. See what my colleagues think about that.
Member Balch.
Yeah, thank you. And it's interesting because I'll maybe go a couple different ways. So for Pleasanton, the Planning Commission is able to partake of conferences as well as our Park and Rec Commission. And then it gets a little bit more gray. Energy and Environment Commission, for example, because there are lots of different bodies and conferences that any of these different groups can go to. And we've just had kind of a preponderance of people wanting to go to them when our budget's been challenged, right? So that's kind of my arch of chat. But I did, as a planning commissioner, go to one and found it extremely helpful. My challenge is the CAC is an advisory body. They're not a planning commission. It's not my Park and Rec Commission. It's an advisory body. And we have advisory bodies for Pleasanton. And if there's Zoom participation and things like that, where there's no travel, we do provide an ancillary amount to make that available to them remotely. But the concept of an advisory body partaking in hotel, meal, and conference fees is something that I'm having a hard time with, to be frank.
Chairman,
Yes, please.
one quick thing. So we put together this policy principally for compliance with law. So we can't do reimbursements until we have a policy in place, which is one analysis. Unfortunately, there's a very different analysis for non-directors because our ability to give out funds is limited by the California Constitution, and we haven't done that analysis with regard to the CAC. So that would be something that would have to be looked at.
If I may, through the chair, then I think, yeah, I guess I'm going to kind of go a little harder, right? I think in the future we could look at maybe the chair of the CAC, like Member Roche said. Maybe that's something where we afford them a conference a year in the future if analysis is done and evaluate if it's possible. But again, I'm going to probably go to the advisory element versus commission level. I do see them as different from my perspective. I can see where the other members go, but that's where I'm at right now. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other hands over there, I think that, well, let me ask a question. When did you plan to bring this to the board?
As soon as it's ready, so I would anticipate in the March regular board meeting to bring forward.
Okay. So my recommendation would be, let's see if we can build a consensus around this. My recommendation would be to send legal, Mr. Perkins and others, to go and evaluate the legality of providing travel stipends to non-board members. That we proceed to the full board with staff's recommendation, subject to that one language change regarding internet. And that in version 2.0 or 1.2 or whatever the next revision is, we can re-explore the CAC question. So I think I'm getting head nods, but I just, member Fugazi, one way or the other, yes, yes, and Balch, member Balch, yes, okay. So that's, I know it's not an action item per se, but that's the consensus, the direction from the council here, or from the committee. If we could move to the prepay bank trustee bank charges item next, please.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
All right. I think, can everybody hear me?
Yep. Yes, please.
All right, great. Let's go ahead and flip to the first slide. All right, greetings, everyone. This is somewhat of a ministerial item. Should be able to get through quickly, but one that we wanted to bring in front of you before taking to CCCFA's board and get approvals before notifying investors. So as you know, Ava now has 5 prepaid transactions after closing 2 last year. If you remember, very complicated diagram. There are numerous monthly cash flows in prepays that need to be processed. And the trustee acts as a third-party custodian of those various accounts for each prepay. And they make payments to bondholders and various counterparties like the commodity supplier, the swap recipient, and also bondholders when debt service needs to be paid. And Ava interfaces with the trustee each month to make sure these get processed accurately and to review account activity to ensure that all accounts are funded as needed. As you would expect, having all accounts within the same trustee bank makes things a bit more efficient operationally. Thus, we have all accounts with Bank of New York by virtue of using them in 2021 for the initial transaction that we entered into with Silicon Valley Clean Energy. So next slide, Adrian. So what we're doing here is seeking board approval to replace the trustee. We have a couple of different reasons for that, both financial and operational. We've noted a bit of fall off in service over the past couple of years, as Bank of New York has had lots of staff turnover, going to other banks, and seemingly pulling back a bit from this business line. Below in the U.S. Bank facts section, we do note that almost all CCA prepays utilize U.S. Bank, with Ava and Silicon Valley the only ones still using them, using Bank of New York. U.S. Bank specializes in these services across the muni finance sector, and they hold about a 45% market share for trustee services, which is the largest in the country. So in addition, they have a more robust interface for downloading documents and just viewing up accounts, and they're more responsive in service. And we also see this as a way to save a little bit of money on these services, about $13,000 per year. I'm sorry, per prepay, and that would be somewhere around $65,000 a year. And we will incur some costs to make this change, which will lower the first year savings. But we will be splitting about $50,000 with Silicon Valley. So we really feel like this is a good switch to make. And now that we have 5, the more of these prepays we do, the more our savings will increase. So final slide, Adrian. While this is an administrative change, it does require noticing investors. So bond counsel wanted us to seek your acknowledgement, and then also CCCFA will approve this at their March meeting, both on consent. Silicon Valley will also be seeking their board approval this month as well. After the approvals, we will file notices to the investment community about 30 days ahead of the formal substitution date of May 1st. We do plan to have this on the consent agenda at the board meeting in a couple of weeks, and we will provide a staff report in the package that this slide deck summarizes. With that, I'll open it up to any comments or questions.
So, and let's go ahead and take public comment on this item. Do we have any hands raised, any cards?
There are no hands raised, so
Okay, and then any comment at remote locations? Seeing none, we will proceed with questions and discussion. Beginning with member Roche.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I take the recommendation just fine, Rusty. It sounds like it'll save us some money. My only question is, what if Silicon Valley their board decides not to do this? What happens to that, the 50,000 that we're supposed to split?
Yeah, actually, typical of the bond counsel work and these prepays, if this doesn't occur because Silicon Valley decides not to, nobody's paying anything, so we won't incur any of the costs. It's kind of similar to when we're planning a prepay. If it doesn't actually ever go to market, the lawyers don't submit. I mean, eventually, obviously, you want to get out there and price a prepay or do something like this and make the switch so that they can get paid. But similarly, if for some reason Silicon Valley's board decides not to, I'm assuming that it would just sit until we make a decision just to switch maybe all of our other accounts and or all of our other prepays and leave the one with Silicon Valley outstanding with Bank of New York. So that's another option. We could switch the other 4.
Okay, okay, all right, thank you.
Member Balch, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the report, Rusty. So maybe I apologize because I hear what you're saying. I read the slide. I've read the slide again while I'm standing here. Could you? It's typically something's occurred to make a group change banks or custodians. I don't want it to be the public's realm. I don't think that's for us at the director level, but fees, service, support, there's got to be a bit more because this seems like based on the sizes of the transactions, Bank of New York bid it was the custodian, things seem to be going well. So if the premise is that they've lost the expertise because they've changed over people, how do we know any future bank that we're going to is going to have the people, and that won't just happen there, right? So I go back to kind of the core, which is, okay, so you mentioned that there's a download software legacy thing. Do we really need that? Is that valuable to us? Fees, is that just because they have a different fee structure? Are they enticing us? Are those fees, that discount going to hold? I guess if I can just ask you to maybe elaborate a little bit more I think it's a pretty notable change, so that's maybe why I'm pushing a little bit more.
Sure. Yeah, I think if we, typically as a public entity would go out and maybe we would rebid this. If the fees came in, then we would go with US Bank, obviously, because they have lower fees. And I think the response maybe that would bear out in a response. But, I think it's worth noting that all of the other CCAs have gone with US Bank. And the other CCA that's still with us is also seeking to do this and make the change because I think they've
Can I pause you a minute? Yeah, let me back up. Just because everyone else did it, I'm at that age in my life doesn't mean. So that either means we didn't do a robust enough evaluation at the beginning and we chose the wrong horse compared to everyone else, or we had different factors that were reasonable in why we came up with the original decision we did, right? So just because everyone else is at the bank actually gets a strike for me. No, I don't accept that as a reason why we should do it, right? So a reason we should do it are things like their more competitive pricing structure, or the services we need to be able to be servicing our transaction as a custodian are better. Those are the reasons. Not because every other CCA is at a different bank. I don't care. Could you recast in that light, please?
Sure. So in the past 6 months, we found 2 errors that have been over $2 million in our accounts. We've had to seek 2 different refunds from our supplier that the trustee did not catch. They are
That's a
13,000
good
per
reason to
prepay
know.
lower.
Yeah.
They are 13,000 per prepay lower. And I think if we would go out to bid this, we would get a lower price.
And a higher, so, and then now that, thank you for the clarity. So now, no, and knowing we would probably have a higher level of fiduciary responsibility to perform by a potential different custodian.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that
And
clarity.
then let's go back and also the technology. So the interface, just today, my staff took 90 minutes to try to find a document on the existing trustee's website that is ours. 90 minutes to find one document. That's a little bit unacceptable from our perspective, that every month we need these documents. And if you can't get the response from the trustee bank to actually get the documents you need to verify that there's enough money in the account so that you are in compliance and the prepaid does not come apart and you have to pay bondholders off, that becomes a problem. So now that we have 5, once we get to 7, 8, or 9, it even becomes more and more.
So following that thread line, and this is the clarity I do appreciate. So then it sounds like, yes, as we expanded this, the way this other custodian does it definitely would be helping us to do our job better, stay in compliance, all of those elements. Okay, and have we, I guess I'll follow up on that, have we tested or know that the new custodian's methods will stay that way, will provide that?
I guess from a experience perspective, in the past 2 issuers I worked for, this was my trustee bank on 75%, I'd say, of all of our bond deals, and they performed very adequately. We also moved away from the existing trustee, which we are trying to move away from here at my last issuer that I worked for because of the same issues.
Yeah, okay, I apologize. I apologize that you've had to deal with it. Sounds like it's extremely frustrating. But I do appreciate the clarity because, like I said, switching is something that I don't, maybe like you said, if we would have gone out to bid straight up, we would have now changed it anyways. And maybe that's a good point as well. So thank you very much.
Yeah, and I'll just add on that. I don't know that, I think that it was probably bid out and there was adequate analysis before. I think there's just been a degradation in service over the past 3 or 4 years.
Well, if I may then, is it a breach of contract on their side or is it?
Not technically. I mean, I think that, they are getting, I don't know. I mean, how do you hold folks to?
How about if I'm going to intercede right there and I'm going to say, I'd rather not have that discussion right here. If you don't mind, Member Balch.
Not at all. I thank you, Chair. Yeah, I appreciate the additional information, Rusty. Thank you so much. And I am sorry that the team's having to deal with that. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I know that Howard would like to add one more piece of color, and then I'm going to come to Member Marquez.
I just wanted to share really quick that the decision to go with Bank of New York predated Rusty's time with Ava. I think we did a good job on the transaction itself, and when we went out to bid originally, some color that's worth sharing is that it was both based on some advisory advice that we had from some of the banks and consultants that we're working with, but also based off pricing. It is hard to evaluate performance of a technology platform and customer service of a bank and a trustee responsibility when you're doing that initial decision. So I highly value Rusty's own personal experience, having worked with multiple trustees, and his experience, which predated Ava, working at SPUD and other entities, public power space, this decision to make us comfortable knowing that U.S. Bank has performed well in his personal experience, and seeing the poor customer service and other areas of deficiency in our sort of 5 years of work with Boney, felt very comfortable with this decision. So I just want to add that additional color that predated Rusty's time here.
Yeah, and if I may, Chair, the premise is, we do a variety of elements that come up to help us lead to a decision. Ava as an organization at the time we did it, right? And so we had factors, and those factors led us to this custodian, right? Hindsight now, maybe there should have been other factors we could have put in or thought of, and maybe we had them all, and things have changed on the ground. And actually, that's what I got from Rusty's additional information is, no, things have changed on the ground. The process of evaluation was fine back then. So I appreciate it. Got the additional clarity I'd like. Thank you.
Thank you. So now I see no one else online. I'm going to come here in the room to Member Marquez.
Thank you, Chair. The only question I have, I appreciate the discussion, but with respect to bond counsel, how long have we had a relationship with this particular firm?
Our bond counsel is Oric, and they have been our bond counsel for all of our prepaid transactions. So our first one was in 2021, so about 5 years.
Okay, so we're not changing that relationship. This is.
No, this is purely the bank, the custodian. Yeah.
And then you're recommending that we split the costs with Silicon Valley, the legal fees.
And the explanation for that is our very first transaction was a joint transaction with Silicon Valley Clean Energy.
Okay.
So it was the very first prepaid that NECC had done. So we felt it was best to go jointly out, do the diligence together. That is the only transaction that we have that's joint with another CCA. All of our others are solely AVA related transactions. So that's the reason why we're able to take the same exact legal work and split amongst two CCAs, just get ahead.
Let me just add to that. The Silicon Valley is also moving all of their prepays. And because it's through CCCFA, there's a commonality of bond counsel work there. So they need to produce notices and those types of things, resolutions for CCCFA, us, Silicon Valley's board. So it's all done. We're going to split the cost. So it's basically a savings across their transactions and our transactions, and then the one we have together with them.
Okay, and should it be over $50,000? Will it have to come back to the board? Or it'd be 25?
Yes. So, well, this is just an informational item here, but
Yeah.
the board item will have a resolution that stipulates the fee mechanism.
Right.
That's a
Got
good
it.
call out
Okay.
though, so that we
Yep.
make sure we're clear about the
Up
fee
to,
structure and
Okay.
whatnot. Rusty, did you have a comment on that?
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know that the cost is going to be included in the resolution. We can, if you'd like that.
maybe just
But
up
this is,
to.
Well, so what I would flag is the dollar levels that we're talking about here are generally well underneath our staff
Your threshold.
authority
Okay.
level. So
Okay.
this is really going to the board, not because of the dollar level,
The
but
change
just
in
because,
ownership.
quite frankly, they're large bond amounts, so we want to be transparent with
Okay.
it and for good practice from our bond counsel advising us to bring it.
yeah,
Okay.
we're required in the bond documents, compliance filing that we have to make every year. Along with that, anytime you do a substitution like this, you have to notify all investors. So we'll put out a notification that if you're a bondholder, you'll get a notification that, hey, now all the money's flowing through US Bank. So if you're missing a payment, you know where to go find.
And what are the legal requirements for the notification? Is it specifically email, US mail? What are the parameters around that?
They go out to where a broker dealer has a bond held in an account by CUSIP number. All of the notifications by CUSIP number for any bonds related to AVA prepays, those go through their broker dealer and notify that way.
Okay.
It's not really a mailing thing. It's more about like a securities holding
Okay.
thing.
Thank you.
The only other thing that I'll add here, I had the same question about the board resolution, is purely, I guess, a note of gratitude. Thank you for letting us know, because it's not obvious to me that you had to let us know. But I think just given the amount of money, given the nature of the transactions, which are inherently a bit opaque to most people, just having this extra little bit of transparency is good practice. So thank you for that. I'm assuming this will be on consent?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's all we have on this item, it appears, so we'll close out item number 5 and come to any committee member staff announcements, including request to place items on future executive committee agendas. I'm seeing no hands up online or in person. Any commentary from people in the room? Seeing none, that's good, because our time is 3:48 and we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Second.